Everyone, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. How many of you actually understand Kannada in case we break into Kannada in between? Okay, so all right. So a very warm welcome to you as well, Harsha.
Thank you.
And what you have done is something I would say exotic. You know, German to Kannada seems, for the lack of words, I'm using it again, really exotic. I mean, what made you learn German? Take up translating. This is your second translation. Do you want to shed some light on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I started learning German purely for the purpose of going to Germany and studying. So I didn't. Of course, I was interested in languages, and I later figured out that I was also good at picking up a new language, but that was much later. So I started it. I went to Germany, and what happened was I ended up in a small German town. So this is all in hindsight, right? It helped me a lot in practicing German, because if I wanted new friends, there were nobody who spoke English or any other language. So I had to also speak German, so that helped, that gave me an edge. So within a year, I was already quite fluent, and after that, it has been my daily language. German has been pretty much my daily language. And I was in Germany for 2 years, and then I moved to Austria. So Austria is also a German-speaking country with a different dialect. So it took me about 2 months to understand what they were speaking, because German is a very diverse language. And then because I was always a reader, I was always reading literature. It so happened that it was probably a natural course of action to start looking at German literature as well. So I started with magazines and newspapers and whatnot, and then I started reading simple literature. Like German has a very diverse collection of crime fiction that is very easy to read. And then this happened, and about in 2022, the writer-publisher Vasudendra was on a tour of Europe. So I was telling him all this, I took him to a bookstore, we were talking about it, and he also knows that I read Kannada literature, because I read Kannada literature, yeah. And he said, why don't you try a hand in translating? I never thought about it. I mean, the first thought was, okay, but should I not? But then I just went ahead. I just dove in, and it happened. So yeah, I mean, I've been discovering a lot of things, but it was not like a conscious decision to become a translator. I got the opportunity, I took it.
Well, that's really wonderful for Kannada literature, and you have done such a fantastic job of translating the book to pronounce the original.
Vatermal.
Vatermal.
Yeah.
And that has been translated to Huttumache. I know you have a note there, but for those of us here, can you explain how the translation happened? And also, riding on that question is, in every language, there are nuances that can't be translated. So how did you address those, the process itself?
So this novel, so I'll briefly touch upon my previous book as well. So the first book was something that I chose. So initially we were wondering, we wanted a contemporary work of fiction, but it was very tricky, because there was no reference as to what works and what doesn't work. So I chose something that is relatable. It has a storyline of two sisters, the relationship between sisters, small town Germany. So it was more like introducing a Kannada reader the Germany way of life. So that was my selection. This book was actually commissioned by the Goethe Institute. So I read.
Would you also like to say a few words about how that commissioning worked?
Yeah, so the first book was also funded by the Goethe. They approve a funding which covers a certain percentage of the cost of the publishing. So it's all available on their website. They have a call 4 times a year, and it has to go through the local Goethe. The emotions were like really raw, and it hit me. And also it did come to my mind that the context is something that will be extremely new to a Kannada reader. So this falls under the category of what they now call as a post-migrant literature. It is a very specific literature art form. I think it is specific to Germany, where kids and grandkids of migrants who came to Germany in the 60s and 70s write this. So this is the book, and I thought there's a lot of opportunity for me to translate the intricate and the raw prose. And it is also very it's spread across a very diverse scenario, in the sense that it takes place in modern day Germany, and it tells the story of an immigrant, and it tells the story of the streets of Germany, of the kids that hang out near the railway station and so on. And it also tells the story of how the parents and grandparents came to Germany from Turkey. So it's like a time span of...
That's actually very interesting. I mean, if you're not giving away much with that,
Yeah.
can you like talk about how this Turkish immigration even happened in the first place? I read it in the book.
Yeah. So in the 60s and 70s, so it's just this post Second World War period in Germany. So they wanted basically people to rebuild the country. So once around the 50s, 55 or so, the German economy started picking up again after the Second World War. So they wanted people, and most also from Southern Europe, like the Balkans and Italy also, there were a lot of immigrants. And Germany, that is West Germany at that time, signed agreements with countries such as Turkey to enable mass migrations of migrant workers. So they call them Gastarbeiter, so that's actually a key term. So Gastarbeiter is guest worker. I mean, it sounds like guest worker, but it's actually more similar to how we look at contract laborers or migrant laborers. And there is a hint in that word that they have to go back after the book is done. Right?
Don't think of it as home.
Don't think of it as home. But then it never happens that way. I mean, they stayed on, and then, I mean, he's the grandson of such a guest worker who came to Germany. So they came in large numbers in the 60s and 70s, and they stayed on. Today, the total population of Germany is about 85 crores. So and then in that, the population of 80 crores? No, 80 million. Yeah, 80 million. So yeah, this is something I have to...
Understandable.
Yeah. The other thing is I have to keep converting between Fahrenheit, Celsius. That's to be very... 80 million, and the Turkish population is about 2 million. So it's a significant minority. So you can see them everywhere. In this doner kebab shop is like a very prominent scene in every German city. So doner kebab is basically shawarma, what Bangaloreans know as shawarma.
So on that note, it is a very complex book. Even from what you have described now, there is a political commentary, and then there is a personal narrative. This boy or young man, Ida, who has gone through so much in life. I mean, and also maybe some of those are sentiments, that are hard to express, right? I mean, hatred for the father, at the same time that longing to be with him. So, I mean, how long did it take you to translate this, and how difficult was the process itself, like content-wise?
So the content was one level, but also I was very conscious that this has to be somehow contextualized for a Kannada reader, because I think even the story, the context, and the style of writing is something new. So I mean, what moved me a lot is I must have read it, I don't know, at least 10 times, right? Even the German one and the Kannada one, but every time it has moved me. Every time, there are places that has made me cry and laugh, like those places. So that's a mark of a good book, I think.
Absolutely. Have you read your translation also 10 times?
No.
I
mean, I think I might have revised it about 5 to 6 times. So it was quite a process. And then I read the whole thing at once in the end. Like I read it aloud to my wife to check the flow, and that actually helps a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. At least when the dialogues are very contrived, if they're not flowing, you kind of catch it at that point. So the other question when it comes to translation is, I mean, how much research did you have to do on your own, and how much in touch were you with the original author?
Right. So in terms of research, it's funny, right? Like the Turkish community, I live in Austria, but it's a slightly different, but it's also Turkish community is one of the bigger minorities in Austria as well. The subcultures, they're all almost one-to-one translatable, because it's a German-speaking world after all. Even though they are like, I have Turkish friends, we go to Turkish restaurants, the story of how they came to be, or their like a nuanced understanding of the Turkish community was something I felt I was lacking after I started preparing for this book. So what helped me was I read 3 or 4 more novels in the same genre, that is written by German authors of Turkish origin. And I could name one of the books that actually really caught my attention. It's called Jeans. Jeans, it's by Fatma Aydemir. It's available in English. That is another book I would definitely recommend. Yeah, it's wonderful. So there is a common thread that they somehow link it to their homeland. So the ones who come, they have a clear understanding of homeland, or at least they think they do. Because they might have come from a rural Turkish village, but then they might be thinking of Istanbul as home. Because it's actually not, but then it's like 30, 40 years later and a lot of things have changed. So they explore these conundrums. And the further generations, they don't have a clear concept of home. And when they're in Germany, they're somehow treated as foreigners by the Germans. And by the Turkish people, they're treated as Germans, right? They have a word for the Turkish spoken in Germany. They call it the Alman Deutsch. That Turkish, they hear the...
It's a different dialect? Or?
They say. Maybe there are so many people that it has been established as a different dialect itself. And the other thing I did was I learned some Turkish. So just on Duolingo, and I took
This is really deep research, Harsha, very nice.
So just yesterday I completed a 700-day streak on Duolingo. So I understand.
You have a lot of badges and.
Yeah, I have a lot of badges. I learned some, and there are a lot of Turkish dialogues in this book. So this I translate the othering, so which leads me to my next point. This I got from the author himself. So interacting with the author during the translation of this book was actually wonderful. So he was extremely cooperative, and also not just cooperative, was very invested in the translation of his book. So
I think that becomes very important, right?
It is very important, I think. And in general, during the translation, I was just chatting with him over messages, Instagram, if I had some small point. There are a lot of words for which I needed some background. I'm just very happy to send me long explanations. And then there is a lot of rap, and there is the nuances that were most difficult to translate were some of these words and dialogues that are used for punching up. Like punching down is probably something that carries forward everywhere. There's one word that I would like to highlight. I just have a sip of water.
And also on that note, would you like to read an excerpt from the book to give a glimpse into the book itself? Yes, please.
So in all of Turkish-German literature, rap, and also any form of self-determination, not just Turkish but also in general a lot of immigrant communities, people of color, but it's not for example, I've never heard South Asian music use it among them. So they use a word kanaka, which is not supposed to be spoken out loud in a German-speaking, it's like saying the N word in the US, right? So I will call it the K word. So kanaka is the word. Yeah. So the K word is something, it is, the etymology of this word is what I found very fascinating. It is a Polynesian word, so the small islands between Hawaii and New Zealand. It was the British colonizers who used this word to refer to the slaves that they got from these Polynesian island communities. So in their languages, the word had a very sada meaning, like man, person, child, boy. So they sort of made it into something called a slave or so. Then it traveled via some colonial routes, and then it somehow reached German, who used it on these work. The format of the book, which I forgot to mention, is that this guy Arda, he's in a hospital bed. He is hospitalized. He has some autoimmune condition that you will find out within the first 2 pages. It's not a spoiler. He is writing about his life for his father, whom he's never met. So he's never met his father. I will find out in the book what happened, and he would have run away for some reason. So the father's name is Metin. So he addresses the father as not as father or appa or whatever. He calls him Metin. And very interesting thing that the author said in one of the sessions. So Metin in Turkish also means text.
Oh, really?
Some written text. So Turkish has a lot of these names that mean mundane things. Like, if we translate it, it doesn't mean anything. But so he calls him Metin. Okay. Metin, ನಿನಗೆ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯ ಹೇಳಲೇಬೇಕು. ತಂದೆಯರೆಂದರೆ ನನಗೆ ಆತಂಕ ತರಿಸುವ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳಾಗಿ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಬೆಳೆದು ದೊಡ್ಡವನಾಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯವನ್ನು ನಾನು ಪ್ರಮುಖ ವಿಷಯವಾಗಿ ಓದುವ ನಿರ್ಧಾರ ಕೈಗೊಂಡಾಗ ನಿನ್ನ ಪ್ರತಿಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಹೇಗಿರಬಹುದು ಎಂದು ಊಹಿಸಿಯೇ ನನಗೆ ಆತಂಕವಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಆದರೆ ಮರುಕ್ಷಣವೇ ನಾನು ಎಂದಿಗೂ ನಿನ್ನ ಅನ್ನ ತಿಂದಿಲ್ಲ, ನಿನ್ನ ಋಣದ ಭಾರ ನನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಿನ್ನ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ನೆರವೇರಿಸಬೇಕಾದ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯ ಯಾವುದೂ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಿನಗೆ ನಾನು ಏನನ್ನೂ ವಿವರಿಸಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಎಂದು ನೆನಪಾಗಿ ನೆಮ್ಮದಿ ಮರಳುತ್ತದೆ. ಜೀವನದುದ್ದಕ್ಕೂ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಸಾಕಿ ಸಲಹಿದವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೆಂಗಸರೇ ಎಂದು ನನಗೆ ಸಂತೋಷವಿದೆ, ಹೆಮ್ಮೆಯೂ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಹೆಂಗಸರು ಅವರವರಲ್ಲೇ ಜಗಳವಾಡಿಕೊಂಡರೂ ನನಗೆ ಮಮತೆಯ ಧಾರೆಯನ್ನೇ ಎರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಬದಲಾಗಬೇಕೆಂದು, ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ದಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯಬೇಕೆಂದು ಹೆಜ್ಜೆ ಹೆಜ್ಜೆಗೂ ಎಚ್ಚರಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಂತರ ಅಮ್ಮ, ಈ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರೂ ಸುಲ್ತಾನರಿಲ್ಲ ಎಂದು ನನಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ ಅಕ್ಕನಿಗೆ ಪಾತ್ರೆಗಳನ್ನು ತೊಳೆಯಲು ಸಹಾಯಕ್ಕೆ ಹಚ್ಚುತ್ತಿದ್ದುದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನೆನಪಿದೆ. ಅಮ್ಮನಿಗೆ ನಾನು ನಿನ್ನಂತೆ ಆಗುವುದನ್ನು ಹೇಗಾದರೂ ಮಾಡಿ ತಡೆಯಲೇಬೇಕಿತ್ತು. ಅವಳ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಸಮಾನತೆಯ ಆದರ್ಶಗಳನ್ನು ಹೊಸ್ತಿಲಿನ ಆಚೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬರುವ ಗಂಡಸು ನೀನು. ನಾನೇನಾದರೂ ನಿನ್ನ ಬಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದರೆ ಆಗ ನನ್ನ ಬಳಿ ಎರಡೇ ಆಯ್ಕೆಗಳು ಇರುತ್ತಿದ್ದವು, ನಿನ್ನಂತೆಯೇ ಆಗುವುದು ಅಥವಾ ನಿನ್ನಂತೆ ಆಗದಿರುವುದು. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಆಗ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಅಳೆಯಲು ನಿನ್ನನ್ನೇ ಅಳತೆಗೋಲಾಗಿ ಬಳಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಿದ್ದರು. ಸ್ವತಃ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ನಾನೂ ಹಾಗೆ ಅಳೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೇನೋ. ಆಗ ನಾನು ಈಗಿನಂತಾಗದೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಸಪ್ಪೆ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಪದವಿ ಗಳಿಸಿ ಫುಟ್ಬಾಲ್ ತಂಡದ ಜೆರ್ಸಿ ಹಾಗೂ ಕಪ್ಪು ಕನ್ನಡಕಗಳನ್ನು ತೊಟ್ಟು ನೆಲ ಮುಟ್ಟುವ ಕಾರುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತು ಆತ್ಮವಿಶ್ವಾಸದಿಂದ ನಸುನಗುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೇನೋ, ನನ್ನ ಮಲತಮ್ಮಂದಿರು ತಮ್ಮ ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಚಿತ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡುವ ಹಾಗೆ. ನಿನ್ನೆಯ ದಿನ ನಿನ್ನ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮಗನ ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೈಲ್ ನೋಡುತ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಅವನು ಬೀಚ್ ಚೇರ್ ಒಂದರ ಮೇಲೆ.
ಹರ್ಷ ಅವರೇ, ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಷನ್ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ನೀವು ಓದಿದ ಶೈಲಿನೂ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫ್ಯೂ ಕ್ವಿಕ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್. ಏನಾದರೂ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಗೋ ಅಹೆಡ್.
Words, like how do you go about trying to break it down and translate it?
My first, in Kannada also, such words have been coined before. So it depends whether it makes sense or not. If not, then I will have to split it up or explain it in a bigger way. But the author is sending a message. It's like saying father tongue instead of mother tongue to make a statement. So I try to bring that into Kannada, but that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way, especially for a title. Yeah.
ಅನ್ಭವಿಸ್ತು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜಿಂದ ಕನ್ನಡ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಚಾಲೆಂಜಸ್ ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಫೇಸಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ಆ ಥರ 1 or 2 ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸಸ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಫೇಸ್ಡ್.
ಅಂದರೆ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ವೇ ಸಮ್ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಡಸಂಟ್. ಅವಾಗ ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸತಿ ಹಾರ್ಶ್ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ಸ್ ತೊಗೋಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಪದ ತೆಗಿಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಒಂದೆರಡು ತೆಗೆದಿರೋ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ಇದೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಸಚ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ನೀಶ್ ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಆ ಕಾಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ದಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಡಸಂಟ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಸೆನ್ಸ್. ಅಥವಾ ಅದನ್ನು ಆ ಒಂದು ಪದನ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು 2 ಲೈನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಬರೀಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ರೀತಿದೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಚಾಯ್ಸಸ್.
At the end of the session. So I hope all of you enjoyed the session, and please let's encourage this translation work that Harsha has done so wonderfully. And he will be available for book signing after the session. Thank you all. Thank you, Harsha.